Okay, good morning, everybody. Shavua Tov. We're going to do a very brief summary of what we got to last week, and I would like to then move on and hopefully at least finish the Sugya Bikiyas, and then maybe we can either look at something more in depth, if not today, then Mir Hashem next week. But just to summarize what we got up to in terms of the back and forth, turn please to Tes Amud Beis at the bottom. Oops, that's a problem with these Gemaras. That one flip isn't necessarily the previous Amud. Okay, so we had a Havamina to say that we want to make a distinction between Sakana and Yisura, that when it comes to, oh, here we go. That when it comes to an Isser, we are perhaps more Machmir. When it comes to Sakana, we're more Machmir. When it comes to an Isser, we can be more Meko, very simply because the Sakana is dangerous. It's life-threatening, and therefore we're not be able to derive anything from it in order to learn from something which is Asr. And therefore, when we're talking about B'makom Nekev Nakav, we're talking about the, going back to what we said already the past few weeks, when our, take a look, let's count the line, we are Tes Amud Beis, just there at the top. Here, even go back, even Tes Amud Aleph actually, go to a person who sees, second line from the bottom. So, we did this last week, I'll just run through it again. Right, so if a person sees a bird that's pecking on a fig, or achbar menakir ba'avatichim, choshishin shem b'makom nekev nakav. That again, we're worried that maybe we're choshesh, that b'makom nekev nakav, and therefore we have a problem. What's our problem? We said, remember from the past couple of weeks, that when it comes to, maybe we're worried that ba'za'ev that a wolf, an animal came, and maybe it punctured, it left its tooth marks in the exact same location that had a previous blemish. We're saying, no, we're not choshesh. So how come here we are choshesh? So the Gemara says, Amar le, mika damit yisur la sakanta. How can you then draw a comparison? You want to tell me that's going to attack question? Because we are choshesh that maybe the bird pecked in a location that was previously had a hole in it where the venom was inserted by a nachash, and we don't know, you're going to drink something, you're going to eat something that had venom from a snake. That's quite dangerous. So therefore, we have to be choshesh that maybe the bird came and pecked in a pre-existing hole. We wanted to originally say that maybe that would challenge what we said, that our ze'ev, and he's puncturing. So I don't know why I'm doing this. I should be doing, I guess, much more difficult to do this than to this. But anyways, but when the ze'ev comes and actually puts his tooth in there, in the hole, we're not worried about that he put it into a previous hole that would then render it a treifa. But how come we're choshesh that the tzipor is pecking in the same location that our previous hole? The answer, the Gemara said, again, we saw this last week, that maybe you cannot compare sakana to isura. Okay, that's what the Gemara wanted to answer. Then the Gemara says, wait a second, is that really true? Can we really draw such a comparison? So, Amar le, mikai dami isura sakanta shani. I understand, we're being more machmir when it comes to a sakana than we are by Nisura. Amar le Rava, Maishna, meaning, what's the difference between the two? Meaning, what's the svara? So Rava is saying, what's the svara? Meaning, if it's a suffix, it's a suffix. The suffix sakanta l'chumra, suffix Yisura nami l'chura. He said, I don't understand. Maybe if one's a suffix, the other's a suffix. Maybe we could in fact say that the kalal of a sveikos, when it comes to the general practice of how we deal with something which is in doubt, maybe we should put them on par when it comes to a Isser and a Sakana. Again, this is a review from last week. And then we said, no. Abaye finally asked a question on Rava, and says the following, Amar le Abaye velo shani. You cannot compare the two, ben Yisur le Sakanta. Right? Why? And I prove it to you. Veha ilu safek tuma birshu sarabim. Sveko tahor. Safek maimagulin asurin. Again, he said, I'll be able to tell you why we cannot draw a comparison between the two. Who remembers this case? Let's see, where do we see this? Where do we see the laws of Safek Tuma, B'Reshus Rabim? What is the source? What? Sota. Okay, Sota. We know that when it comes to, let's describe this again. If I When it comes to a woman who's a sota, and she secludes herself, that's the source. So when it comes to a suffix, if we're not sure about something which is aser, and the location is in a Bershus Harabim, a suffix iser Bershus Harabim, we are going to say suffix tuma. Bershus Harabim, sfeiko is going to be tahor, as opposed to suffix b'may megulin, we are going to say is going to be aser. What do I mean? If you leave out a cup of water overnight in your private home, we're going to say what? You're not allowed to drink from that water. Why not? What are we worried about? Maybe a snake deposited venom in there. Okay, again, modern day applications we're going to get to. That's our part 2 that other today for next week. But what about if it's suffix tuma? Suffix tuma birshus harabim. We are going to be tahor. So, we see from here that Chachamim were more machmir by Isser than by Tuma, which, by the way, Tuma is just a division of Isser, right? So if that's true, then we see here's a distinction. We see here's a case where we're more machmir by Sakana than by Tuma, than by Isser. So therefore, we cannot draw an inference saying that maybe the bird pecked in a previous existing hole. We should be machmir there, because more machmir by Sakana, as opposed to an Isser by the Treifa, by the Zev. Yeah, we're not Choshesh. The Malcolm Nekev Nakav. Where do we see this? We see Chachamim were more lenient. Chacham more lenient by Tuma, as opposed to by Sakana. And then the Gemara asks a question on this. What are you talking about? You cannot draw such an inference. Shlomo said, where do we learn the whole concept of Tuma Bershus Harabim is mutter, as opposed to Tuma Bershus Hayachid, which is Asur? It's all from Hilchos Gemir La Misota. And what we said last week was, what is the Chiddush? The Chiddush is, I don't understand, there's a Chazaka. If this woman is Tahor, if Tuma, why should we assume this person is now Tameh? They have a Chazaka that they're Tahor. It's the Chiddush of Sota, is that we don't place them on the Chazaka that they're Tahor. We say that the Chazaka is ruined, even though we're Choshesh, even though we're questioning them. The Chiddush is, so what if you're questioning? Tahor is Tahor, Chazaka the Tahor. No. Safik, Tuma, Birashus Hayachid, we're Machmir. That's a big Chiddush. And as we know from our studying of the Talmud, from a Chiddush Ledin, you do not extrapolate onto anything. And therefore, you cannot use this notion of Safek Sakanta and Safek Isura. You cannot draw an inference from there that we are, just because in one case it's Safek Tuma, we're Machmir, and we're Mekil, and by in Rishus Rabim, and by a Sakana, by venom overnight, we are Machmir. You cannot draw such an inference. The reason why we can't draw such an inference is because it's a Chidush Ladin. It's a Chidush Ladin, and therefore we can't draw such a parallel. That is where we left off last week. Okay. Not an easy Gemara. If we stay focused, we can finish. So what we want to do now is I want to pick up, and I want to continue from Meitiv Rav Shimi, and I want to Rav Shimi. There you go. Meitiv Rav Shimi. Hopefully, we even get to the end of the sugya, at least inside. So let's follow along. Okay. We are on Daf Tet Amud Bet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth line, the word Meitiv. Shimi, you want to read? Rav Shimi?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Meitiv Rav Shimi, Sheretz Befi Chulda, the Chulda Mehalechet al Gabe Kikarat Shel Truma. Safik Nega, Safik Lo Nega.
Naga.
Safik Naga, Safik Lo Naga, Spiko Tower.
Period. Good. Okay, so what is the case? Can you describe it to us?
It's a...
you have a sheretz. What's a sheretz?
Forbidden insect.
A creepy crawly guy, right? That's what we, in our complicated language, a creepy crawly insect. Now, the sheretz is alive or dead? It's in the mouth of a chuda, so chances are it's dead. Okay.
Right.
Now, is a live chuda metame?
No.
No. Now, it might be gross and disgusting, but it's not metame. a dead sheretz. Is that metame?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we have a chulda, you have some type of rodent, right? Which has a creepy crawly thing in its mouth. Now, where is it going?
On top of
truma bread.
It's gross.
So it's gross. Again, so forget the gross component here. Forget the chulda jumping on bread
So
for now.
by gross.
What was that?
We're mako
We're mako by
by gross.
gross, right? I guess it's more subjective. I don't know, right? But when it comes to tuma, the problem is what don't we know? Safek naga, safek lo naga. Safek, now, the chulda can't hover over bread. That'd be quite difficult to do. We're not talking about the chulda. The chulda is for sure on the bread. But what's the safek if the sheretz touch the bread? Okay? So we have this rodent with holding a dead sheretz and is walking on your truma bread. And we don't know if the sheretz touched the bread or not. Safek naga, safek lo naga. We don't know. So, what does this brisa say? Sfeiko tahor. So, meaning, what do we assume? Well, we didn't see anything. Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell. I couldn't see. Didn't have, when I looked, I didn't see it touching. But I saw, I don't know, the dead rodent's head bobbling, or maybe part of it might have touched. I don't know. It's just a suffix, right?
But if it definitely touched.
If it definitely touched, if I see it, then you're in trouble. Right. Or, by the way, I know for sure, as it was traveling, I for sure saw it touch one. The question is, and that was the trajectory, it touched one, I saw it. But the question is, the next time, by that time, I guess, the chulda was bouncing a little bit, maybe it didn't touch the second time because of the angle, because of the...
If it comes in contact with truma, it can make truma in itself, if it touches the truma.
Yeah, but chulda is not matame. Chulda is alive.
Right, but if you touch a dead body, and then you touch truma, the truma is bad, is now invalidated.
Yes, but it has to... No, that's... Okay. That is only true by a... So it's not binaga, it's only by masa. The masa... Okay, so sling isn't always metame through... a chulda would not be metame a truma bread even though it's holding in its mouth a dead sheretz. It is not susceptible to tuma that way. It doesn't ruin your truma bread. For truma bread, you're going to need either direct contact or you're going to need a liquid.
Okay.
If it's without either one, then you'll be okay. So either direct contact, meaning I need the sheretz to touch it.
Because I know Rishon can make truma tame.
Yes, but that's only rishon by a dead human, not by a sheretz. So, therefore, what do we have? We have a situation here where we don't know. Okay, and here's what's important: the suffix is mutter, right? Or the suffix is mutter, meaning this truma we assume is the status. Again, what's the rationality? We have a chazaka that this is tahor. We have a suffix to remove the chazaka of tahoriness, and doesn't affect it. Okay, that's the brisa. Okay, V'ilu, go ahead. V'ilu.
Safek mayim megulin asurim.
Period. So here we go. Yet when it comes to, wait a second, I don't know. What was the suffix? Was it a safek mayim megulim? I'm not sure if it was out. Was that all night? Was that a part of the night? Did you see it? There's a suffix. And safek mayim megulim is asur. So here we clearly see. Here's a distinction between a sakana and isura. One ramach, one rameko. Therefore, what? I have these two malkum nekev nakav. When it comes to the tzipor who's pecking at a potential hole opening and a tain, I can't be choshesh for that. As opposed to by the zeiv, I can be lenient. One's an isser, one is an isser. Sorry, one is an isser, one is a sakana. Sakana we're machmer, by an isser we're mako. Okay. Now, very bad comparison. Why?
Hatamnami hilchata gemira la misota.
No. Why? How? Hilchata gemira la. Halacha Moshe Sinai. By so again, there's a chidush l'din. What? So let's see. How does it play out?
Masota davar sheyesh badat l'shalel. Nami davar sheish bo dat lishal.
Okay, we dismiss this comparison. Okay, this is very good. What in the world is this statement? Dat lihisha'el. Why is it that by one case we cannot make an inference to the other because of sota? What is the difference between a sota lady and a akhbar? By what? You can ask. Okay, it appears, and this is a very strange distinction. Right? Oh, I can interview the lady and I can say, excuse me, miss, you have dat lihisha'el. I can ask her. Were you there? Were you not there?
It's an interesting answer.
It's a very interesting answer. Now, can I ask this chuda? I can't ask the chuda. Now, why is that a very interesting answer? Meaning, let me go through this. Since there's dat lihisha'el by a woman, we're machmir. Since I can't ask the chuda, we're mako. Oh no, left it in my car. Okay, we'll see how far we can get.
That lasted a long time for two.
Yeah, I know. We'll see what happens. So, what is the gentleman? What is the rationale behind? What is dat lihisha'el? Why does it matter? Meaning, does dat lihisha'el enhance my suffix? But does it diminish my suffix? How come the ability to ask the woman? How does that have any impact on my suffix?
Should diminish it.
What?
Should diminish
so, okay, so how does it? So it appears that it diminishes it. Why does it diminish it? Why does that enhance my doubt more? Why?
Enhance your doubt more.
Meaning we're machmir, right? Meaning we're talking about a situation where this akhbar, where this chuda, where this rodent is in a reshus yachid, right? It's in a house, and it's hopping over truma with this dead sheretz in his mouth. We don't know. Safek naga, safek lo naga. We're mako. When it comes to this woman, in Reshusa Yachid, Safek Mitame Safek, we're machmir. No, can't compare. Why? One is dat lihisha'el, one is no.
Did we already
What are you
argue
talking about? Why?
that this is a special case?
Oh, very good, Justin. Another good question. I understand. Did we already conclude this is a special case? Why is he bringing up for that Safek Tower Safek Loto? Okay, good question. Hold on to that for a second. Good. I think there's a havmina that he originally had when he asked the question that gets dismissed with this answer. Very good question. Rashi will explain this, I think. But hold on for now. Is there anything what does dat lihisha'el have anything to do with it? If it does at all. So, guess what? The Rav Elchanan is Kovetz Shiurim. He says, listen, what is dat lihisha'el? What is dat lihisha'el is totally relevant. What does it matter? He said, and this will answer Josh's question, that's exactly the Chiddush of Sota. Meaning, the Chiddush of Sota is that we are so specific in the case, you can't extrapolate from it. Meaning, it should be, what's the halacha should be? The halacha should be that Safek, Birashus, Hayachid is Tahor. Why? We have a Chazaka. And the answer is that's always the case, except in one case, dat lihisha'el. And where you learn dat lihisha'el from? Sota. So we had a havamina to think that this could be applied, and that's why he used it, maybe as a proof, to show that there's a distinction between them. What's the maskana? You can't learn anything at all from Sota. Meaning, we thought maybe we could extrapolate when it comes to Rishus Harabim. The answer is no, we can't learn anything from Sota, because the entire Sota is a Chiddush. Even if I want to say that maybe I would assume that the Safek Tahor would here's a distinction, it seems to be an obvious distinction, right, between Reshus Ha and Reshus HaYachid. The answer is no, not true. Why? Dat lihisha'el v'ina dat lihisha'el. Meaning, I'm learning something from the women. The fact that I could ask her, the fact that I could interrogate her more, right, is a chidush l'din. It shouldn't matter. The answer is, you're right, it shouldn't matter. What's the difference between a mouse and a woman? Well, meaning in terms of, it doesn't help, it doesn't enhance or diminish your knowledge of a safek. The answer is no. It's such a chidush l'din that we're even drawing what appears to be an irrelevant distinction, we're going to make relevant. And therefore we can't use it to make a distinction between isura and sakana. Right? So you can't say just because of safek, we're by ma'mugulin, we're machmir, and by safek, by this safek naga, safek lo naga, We can't say, no, one is for Isura, one is for Sakanta. The answer is no. It's such a Chiddush Ladin, even for the Tuma, that we can't extrapolate. So leave them totally separate. It's a big, you're right, so there really is no Chiddush. It is such, since it's such a huge Chiddush, because there's no Savara reason for it whatsoever. It's almost a V'tilchta Gemirala, it's almost just like Halacha Moshe Misinai, that's almost totally irrelevant, has no rational component to it whatsoever. That was the Havmina, was to think that no, since maybe there's something rational behind it, I can make an inference. The answer is no, I can't. Dali Shail, which doesn't help at all with the suffix, doesn't enhance or diminish my suffix, it's just Hilchos HaGemira. Okay? So if you want to, Rashi actually discusses this also. Look at the fourth line there in Rashi. Hilchos HaGemira Misota. Dibashus harabim sfeiko tahor. The gzera sakasavu. Right? There's no rationale behind the fact that in a Pishus harabim, safek tahor, the high Pishus yachid l'chumra zinan. Chol safek yisur nami l'chumra b'din l'mezo shema yavar. Okay. My tuma shekina labala al tistari imploni. Right? Vinistara, right? Don't seclude yourself with this guy, and she did. Vinitma says it twice. Shenesra alav bistira zo. Since they secluded himself, she made herself tamei. The only way then to remove the suffix, if she secluded herself or not, is by drinking the mesota. Right? Sitira ena elabashusa yachid vatamhu the asa rachmana misveka. The Torah was machmer by Safek, Abashusa Rabbi, Sharai, the love stiru, the Tuma Mehasam Gemira, the Tuma Karu Rahmana. Okay, fine. Besider. Okay, so we're good so far. Now we see, by the way, what are we stuck with now? We're back to square one. Meaning, it appears to have a contradiction between. Where we have a contradiction, go back. Where we have a contradiction now between? If we can't say there's a difference between a sakana and an isura, then what are we left with? Competing brisas, because one brisa says that makom nekav nakav, we are lenient. Another place, makom nekav nakav, we're machmer. We're makom nekav nakav by the ze'eva tarav, we're lenient, we allow you to eat the animal. By a Te'ena, what do we say? By the te'ena, where the tzipor comes and pecks at it, what do we say? Makam nakav, and therefore we don't eat it because maybe there's a previous hole. What was in this previous hole? Venom from a snake. So we have a contradiction, right? Because we can't make a distinction between sakana and isura. Okay, that's where we're left. That's where we're back to square one. Okay. Then the Gemara continues. Shimi, doing a great job. Go on.
Amar Rav Ashi.
Yeah.
Tashma. Slochit shehinicha megula uba mitzah mechusa tmeya.
Okay, what is this brisa telling us? What do we have in front of us? What do we have? What do we have here? What do we have? We have a what's a tziluchit? A canister, right? Some type of kli, some type of vessel, right? And what do we have in this vessel?
Water.
Filled with water. Now, this is interesting. What is supposed to be in this vessel? So, if you take a look, in this vessel is supposed to be water for the, look at Rashi, Shemal uha mayim chayim lemei chatas, right? From the Ephra Apara, Parshat Chukas. We filled in the suchis, in this little receptacle, we filled in water for the chatas, right? For the procedure for the paraduma, right? Filled with water. Now, there's water here. And we want to sprinkle this water on a person who came in contact with a dead body. Now, how did we leave this tzluchis? We left it
uncovered.
Migula. We left it uncovered. It's just open. And now we come back, and it's covered. Wow. Miraculous. What is the status of this water? Says the Brisa, Tameh.
Like an analyst skill.
Okay. What? What's going on here? This is like miraculous. And all of a sudden, it was covered in some, miraculous nature. So what are we arguing here?
It's got to be a human.
What?
It's not it was an animal.
Oh. So let's continue in Rashi. You're like, whoa, this is like magic. Right? So Rashi, the Gemara says, this is Tameh. Wait a second. How is this a proof? How is this not a proof? How is this? So how are we using this brisa at all? We're trying to use this brisa to prove and to resolve a contradiction between Isura and Sakana. How does this accomplish that?
Shows that Isura is also Tame. Just like Sakanas.
So how? So again, my Megulim. So water was left open. Again, this is Mechatas. So what are we worried that what happened to that water? Okay, so this is where we need Rashi. Here we go. Metame, here it is. Tamea. So this water is metame ochel. Long, the first line in long Rashi. V'koshkem psula le kiddush. Dehakol ma'ise b'malos tahara heim dechatas kurvach. Okay, you're not allowed to use this water for anything. Right? This water cannot be used for anything. It's for mechatas. It can't be used for anything. Can't be. What are we worried happened to this water? Are we worried that a snake came in and deposited venom? Well, how does the fact that we now see that it's covered help us with poison being inserted into this tzluchis? So that's the truth is, I think the clarity will come if we continue reading this brisa. I think that might help us more than anything else. Let's continue reading a little bit more for now, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Shiny, Omer Adam, Tamei nichnas l'sham, v'chisa hinicha mechusa.
V'chisa, period. However, if hinicha mechusa, if the tzluchis was left covered,
uba mitzah megula, im yechola chulda lishtot mimana, o nachash, divrei Rabban Gamliel,
or
shiyarat ba tal balayla psula.
Now, for Amar Rosh ben Levi, what's the rationale behind it? Matam mipnei
shedarkan shel shiratzim legalot vein darkan mechasot.
Okay. Now,
so we're concerned about sherets.
So what are we concerned about and what are we not concerned about? So here we go. So if in the fact that what's the rationale behind we're worried that if you left it revealed and now it's covered, what are you worried about? We're worried about an Adam, that's what the Bryce said, right? Adam ba Adam, and what did he do?
Uncovered it.
Adam Tameh. What am I worried about? Adam was Tameh. And what did he do? Nichnas l'sham. He walked into this room, this is Rosh Yachid, right? He walks in this room, and he sees there's a mechatas which is open. So what does he do? He takes the cover, and he says, wow, this is not appropriate. And he covers it up. The kisa. And he covers it.
Contradicts the previous one.
Right, okay, hold on. We'll see what happens. So again, what we're trying to understand, why is it that we are worried that if you leave a revealed mei chatas open, and you come back the next morning, lechora, and you see that the cover has been placed on? Well, what are we worried about? So we have a little bit of insight. Ba Adam Tameh, Nichnas Hashem, V'kisa, and he covered it. That's what we are worried about. Now, what about the opposite case? If you leave it covered, and now you check it out the next morning, and see that it's uncovered. Right? So, or nachash, to drink from it, the divrei Rabbi Gamliel, or, right, because this is shiyared bat tal balai. Let me explain. If dew falls into your mechatas, you're not allowed to use the mechatas. And so, what?
Why it's not Mechayim?
No, you're not allowed to use it. It puzzles it. Right? Yes, it's Ramam Chaim. Yes. So, according to Rabbi Gamliel, tal, if dew falls, in your May Chadas, it also puzzles it. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, somehow it maybe became no good. Either because Nachash drank from it or dew fell on it, it's puzzled. Now, what's the rationale behind it? Why do we make a distinction? What if you were a creepy crawly guy and you see here a barrel? I'll give you an example. You ever take your garbage out at night? You guys take the garbage out? The garbage or recycling? You don't do it? I assume when you put it out, chances are you cover it, I imagine. If raccoons got to it, or other types of animals, what do? Darkan to rip it open. Legalot. Do the raccoons go around and see a garbage can that's open and says, oh my goodness, this is not appropriate, and close it? No, of course not. Right? Ein darkan lechasot. Animals don't mechat. They're not like neat freaks, right? Oh, it smells bad. I got to close the stench. So ein darkan lechasot. They don't. So who's the only type of creature that covers things? A human being. And what are we worried about human beings? Human beings, if they're alive, and have an ability to close something, because if you're dead, they can't do it. But a live human being is the only entity that's able to close something from a rational perspective. You could, maybe because the wind, and the wind can't do it, right? Wind can't take a cover and blow it over and put it on. I mean, that's like pretty unlikely. It had a flap. What?
We have the flap on the bins now.
Yeah, okay, so maybe the flap of the bins. They didn't have flaps in those days, I don't think. So therefore, it is much more likely that a human being covered than as opposed to an animal. By the way, if an animal takes off a covering, it's not matame. Not matame. But if a human being covers it, it can very well be matame.
Is that only for human beings, Tommy?
Yeah, if human beings tower, that's fine. So that is what I'm trying to understand. Why is it that is Tameya? Don't think for a second, says our Gemara. Is this a question of a suffix? So here we go. Let's understand this. Now, if, however, if it's open, then and an animal drinks from it, it also puzzles it. Why does it puzzle it? It puzzles it because it's being used. The moment you use the mechatas, it is no good. Okay. So again, if in the situation where a person leaves it covered and then he comes back later and he sees it open, we have two reasons to be metahiret. What are the shnei tzadim? What are the two aspects that we can say that it should be tahor? What are they? The following. One, maybe a sheretz came and opened it, and a live sheretz is not metameh. And if you say that an animal, maybe it was a human, maybe the human was tahor, right? If the human was tameh, that would be one. So again, if it's an animal lifts up a garbage can, or lifts up the top of the tzilchis, he's not metameh it. What about if it's a human? So it depends. Human A is tahor, human B is tameh. So if 2 out of 3 options are good. However, when it comes to something which is covered, so the only ability to cover something is done by a human being. One option is that the human being is tameh, one option that it is tahor. So I have 50-50. So we're saying from here that when it comes to the rationale behind we're more machmir, if we see that I left it open and it's covered, since it's only 50-50, we are machmir. However, when it comes to that I left it closed and now it's open, there's going to be lenient. Why? Because two out of my three scenarios would render it tahor.
That also assumes that
yes,
that's a 50-50 chance the person's tameh.
Yeah, again, a human being is either tahor or tameh.
Right. Do we assume the majority of humans are tameh, tahor?
It appears so. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We assume it's normal for a person to be tameh? At least in those times?
That's a good question. Look, we're able to question the chazal. We don't know, put it this way, we're not able to definitively say that a person is always in the state of tahor. So therefore, I guess the odds are, based on this brisa, that we
state that the person isn't always a...
No, so there we can, because we see that they live.
Right, but we can't definitively state it.
No, not definitively, but I have a chazaka, though. Right? Whereas here, here it appears that I have three. When I have three options, and two of the three are okay, then I'm able to conclude we're assuming that it's tahor. When I have an option where it's 50-50, because it can't be an animal, because animals don't cover, then I have a human. A human being is either tahor or tameh, therefore it's only 50-50. Interesting. We don't say that rove human beings are tahor. If they would be. Okay. But so that's by the way, that's when it comes to Tuma. We have to continue in our brisa. So skip the bracket. Skip the bracket. V'ilus safek ma'amegulin asurim shemamina chamira sakanta mi'isura shemamina. Finally, we get to a conclusion that what we see from here. When it comes to, wait a second, safek, was this covered or not covered? Who covered it? Who could have covered it? Who could have opened it? Depends. In a safek, there are many scenarios that the safek is mutter. When is a safek mutter? If it is removed. If it's removed, it could be done by either an animal, in which case it would be tahor, or it could be done by a human, who could either be tahor or tameh. 2 out of 3, we are lenient. Safek, we're lenient. Yet, when it comes to mayim megulin, we are always machmir. What do we see from here? Safek, tuma, safek, isser, we're mekel. Safek, sakana, we're machmir. Shmamina, and this is a principle that we need to become familiar with in halacha, chamira, sakana, misura. We're more machmir by sakana than it is by isser, and therefore these two brises can be distinguished. We can say makom nekav nakav by a ze'evet taraf, and we can be lenient, and as opposed to by a bat tzipor, when it comes to a bird who packs, we can be machmir. Finally, we're not. This is not sota. Rishus Yachav Rabbi doesn't matter. Dadli Shal doesn't matter. We are down to the concept of mayim megulim. Water being revealed in a chatas, we have a possibility that the safek is permissible, as opposed to mayim megulim. When it comes to sakana, we're machmir. Both are rishus yachid, both are dealing with water, both are dealing with humans or animals, right? And therefore, since they're on par, we can reach this definitive conclusion that chazal, we're machmir by sakana, and we're lenient by isser, hence the makom nakav, we can make a distinction because in one case we're talking about isser, treifa, be lenient, as opposed to sakana, poisonous venom, we can be more machmir, and that principle has now been established. Whew. Okay, we did it, we got there. Good. Forget the bracket, don't worry about the bracket. Okay, good. Now, there is a continuation of this. There's a slight continuation here in the Gemara, just for the 2 dots, which also deal with a little bit more sakana. So let's just continue reading, because for now, Tanan Hasam Gimel Mashkin Asurim Mishum Galui. So they're not just liquids. We said by water, and it applies to other things. It's also yayin and chalav, right? So ma'im yayin and chalav. Kamo Yashu v'Yasurim. How much do we have to be worried about? I mean, not only do we have to cover water, we got to be worried about wine and milk, right? Because maybe perhaps a poisonous snake deposited venom in there. What am I reading? Shimi, continue reading, please. Kamo Yashu v'Yasurim. So, what do I have to be worried about? That what potentially do I have to be worried about? That what happened?
What's a rachash?
What's a rachash?
Sure.
A type of dangerous, creepy crawly guy. Yeah.
That comes and drinks the liquid.
That comes and drinks the liquid. So, meaning, I have to be worried that maybe if he deposited venom in there. Oh, by the way, interesting is that a person here that orange juice would be okay.
Why?
Tea, coffee, Coke.
Why?
What's the svar behind it?
It's the same chance of getting venom put into it and then dying the same way, no?
So, I mean, what is the how? And by the way, this is important. But kama yishu, how much we are time delay? I mean, how much time?
Take like the snake from out of the wall.
Right. How much time can I have something reveal? Meaning, you got to reveal. Meaning, let's say you're drawing wine from it. You got to open it up. Oh, for a split second, that's ridiculous, right? What is the time delay that you can have this thing opened or revealed and not be worried that? So he says that this creepy crawly guy comes, right? The snake. I'm not quite sure why it's called a rachash as opposed to a nachash. I'm not quite sure. I mean, Rashi just seems to say the same thing, which to me makes sense. Rachash, Rashi says nachash. Rachash is the Targum Shel Sheretz. So, anyways, it's the same thing.
Tell me that it's only derech to drink from wine and challah and not from anything else.
Derech, no.
Doesn't like Coke?
Yeah, it doesn't like Coke. It won't go to Coke. It won't go to orange juice. It won't go to tea. Starbucks coffee. It won't drink Starbucks coffee. I don't know. First of all, they didn't drink it. They probably didn't drink other juices in those days, right? You didn't drink the other types of juices. It was almost exclusively those three types of drinks.
Squeezed out an orange? They squeezed out an orange?
No, because it was like, why would you squeeze it out? Just eat it.
Yeah,
so,
that's what
no, they say, because they said, remember what they called orange juice? Mind ba'alma. They looked at orange juice as mind. That's why you can't make haftal over. Right? These things are not real. These are not chashuv liquids. These are mind ba'alma. Right? That's why you can't make haftal or kiddush, right? It's nothing. So, they didn't have Tropicana in those days. They didn't know what they were missing.
They knew of the idea of doing it.
Yeah, again, they knew the idea that maybe you squeezed it, but it clearly wasn't. It wasn't what people did. That's maybe what the commentary here says. That in derech lishtos, meaning
it wasn't common.
It wasn't common. Yeah. So again, they only made a gzera on things that were common. Milk is common. Wine is common. Right? Water is common. But therefore, we're worried that a snake deposited venom in it. But to then extrapolate that gzera onto something that humans barely drink. So what are the odds of the nachash depositing venom in there? That's already maybe too far off.
They're not worried about food also, right?
And they're not worried about food. Yeah.
You able to see that?
Well, food you'd see the marking and you presumably cut it away.
Well, it's not cutting away. We're worried about depositing venom.
Well, it doesn't spread
Maybe
the way
venom
through food. That
it doesn't?
Would be. Well,
into a liquid where it goes
liquid would go everywhere. Food would probably stay where it was
localized.
Presumably.
No, it wouldn't. If you inject like a dye into the side, it doesn't like travel all over.
Depends on what it is. Fruit probably. Piece of bread probably not.
No. Or just get on the outside there. You can cut away and eat it. Listen, different times. Okay, so. Okay, so the Gemara anyway says that just by the way, just to extrapolate these are the only types of liquids I'm worried about. Shimi, go ahead. And what's the distance? What's the time? Right? Karav v'yishta.
Right.
Is that a hole in the wall? Is that the grass behind you? Right. I guess it depends on where you live. Right. Where's your? In our case, maybe it's like to break out of the zoo. Right. Or to travel from Africa or something. Right. That's pretty. That's kind of our situation where we live today. Go on.
V'kama makom karav. Amar Yitzchak Brei Rav Yehuda. Kadei sheyetzei mitachat ozen kli v'yishta.
Okay. So enough time that he would, get out from underneath the pot, right, and go and drink. The handle of a kli and drink, which I guess isn't that long of a time, but okay, go on.
Yishta hakachazile.
What do you mean? If I say yishta, then what?
Then you know that it's.
You see it, right?
Ela yishta v'yachzor lechor.
Ah, very good. Because it can't be, so you need to give it enough time that it goes both ways, right? If it's just enough time to go from outside of the corner, outside from the cleat to the thing, you'd see it.
Double the length.
So if it doubles the length of time, okay, fine. That's not really so. But here's the interesting. What do we see the time is based on how it goes from the spot that it was hiding in, whether it's under clear or in the corner of your house, to the opened cup, open pot, open whatever it is, barrel, and then go back to its. And what about if you live in a place where we don't have any such creepy crawly things? Do we have to be concerned? In the year 2015, do we still have to be concerned with what's called mayim megulim? That will be next week's topic. Modern day sakanas. It's worthwhile spending a little bit of time, and we're going to see various sources of mayim megulim, and also there's other things specifically as well that we have to be worried about in terms of danger. The most famous one is, what don't we do in the modern era because of danger? Fish and meat. Why don't we eat fish and meat? It's dangerous and it causes tzaras. That's what Rashi says. It causes tzaras if we eat fish and meat together.